All right, it's my pleasure to introduce Aware Group. Brandon Hutcheson, Chief Executive Officer. Aware Group is a global leader at counting and classifying through the use of artificial intelligence. Aware Group is also New Zealand's leader in providing artificial intelligence services across the public sector and large enterprises through multiple verticals from agriculture to transportation.
Thanks so much for joining us here, Brandon. It's great to see you again, and obviously lovely to connect almost a year after the Tech Roadshow last year. Looking forward to your thoughts a little bit on how you felt the trip went last year, your impressions of the Korean market, and what might have resulted as a result of your visit over here, and what future prospects there might be for your business in the Korean market. So excited.
You sure summed all the questions up in one there, so I'll give it my best shot. So
we'll just start one by one. Yeah, do you want to just tell us a little bit about your impressions of last year?
Yeah, so the trip into Korea last year was actually quite interesting. It changed a whole bunch of our perceived ideas around doing business in Korea, and it did make us go back and go, hey, we need to invest more into this, specifically around the business culture. That was a part of which we realized that the trip actually provided from literally the moment that I landed. Everything that we had been prepared for kind of went out the door, and we had to start adjusting and adapting. It is different than other parts of Southeast Asia. So we do business in 14 other countries in the world, predominantly mostly Southeast Asia.
Right.
Korea was the only country I haven't been to so far. So going there, it was trying to take more of a Singaporean, Malaysian approach into Korea, but which is not the right approach.
Right, it's different. Yeah.
So definitely taking some of those learnings on how to interact with people, body language, and definitely signs of respect, which is quite traditional conservative. Yeah. That actually made quite a bit of a difference in adapting after the first couple of days of going to sell. The visits were actually quite useful. It was actually quite a different set of demographics that we actually met with. So I was lucky enough to meet the Smart Cities team in the City of Songdo, and that was definitely by far the friendliest visit with any of the government or corporate that I got to meet with, and it was very, very personal. Getting to go through answering the questions, and it was a real good experience.
Okay.
That was probably one of the highlights of the actual visits, was that working with or having the meetings facilitated between SK was quite useful. It definitely supported some of our work that we've done with SK afterwards. Oh, okay. No, I can't go into what that was. But since that trip there, we are working with about 9 different companies in Korea. So that's Naver, LGE, SK, Hyundai Heavy Industries, and Samsung.
Oh, fantastic! Which part of Samsung is it? Was it the electronics business or? I'm
not too sure.
Oh, okay. Not too sure. Nice one. No, I think on the SK side, it was SK Telecom, if I remember correctly.
Yep, that's correct. Yeah. That's correct. And there is a few more large gaming companies, but we can't go into that specifically. So it was actually quite useful. So after coming back from the visit, I was able to pass those learnings on to our newly formed Southeast Asia team. So fantastic. New Zealand Trade Enterprise supported us quite nicely and actually set up our Singapore office to act as a hub.
Right.
So our Singapore office was to act as a hub between all our other Southeast Asian clients. Yeah. So we did have quite a few of our staff flying in between Singapore to Korea quite regularly, which was promising, and it definitely removed a lot of that gap which we found with New Zealand being here.
Gotcha. Sure. Yeah. Okay, interesting. So in terms of the outcome of your visit, would you say that those business opportunities were a result of the visit, or had they already been in the pipeline beforehand and your visit basically helped to push them along and cement them a little bit?
So the visit, I managed to get a meeting with our Microsoft partner over there as well, so we're a big Microsoft partner, pretty much work with Microsoft all around the world. So we managed to actually meet with Microsoft in Korea, which was great. Got to get their lay of the land as well. And we actually got to physically meet them, and everything's about personal relationships. So we're actually able to put a face to the name. And then all the opportunities that we're actually working on, either just before that or during that period, were accelerated due to the visit.
Oh, fantastic.
It did actually increase the speed, because when people see it makes things a lot easier. But it also did make us realize that if we are to continue to do business in Korea, we do need to spend more time.
Oh, okay.
And that kind of influenced both our New Zealand Trade and Enterprise Grant for the International Growth Fund, which is supporting additional visits to Korea and to allow for those different larger market opportunities, because we only look after organizations with, on average, around 50 million plus in annual revenue.
Okay.
So the opportunity size that we are going for is quite large.
Yeah, right. This is 50 million revenue for your business, or you mean the?
No.
Oh, okay.
For the corporates, so we only work with the So we only work with the big corporates or the government departments that actually have that level of funding. Because what we do is emerging technology.
Yeah, right. Okay, interesting. And you said that there may be necessity for more active engagement of the market here with your partners here. So would that mean that you might extend your Asia footprint to also have a more permanent establishment in Korea eventually?
That's correct. So Korea is second after Singapore.
Okay.
So Korea is our third fastest market that's growing.
Fantastic.
For customer size and customer size deal. Singapore is our priority mostly at this point because it does allow the bridge between everyone else within Southeast Asia quite easily.
Easier. Right.
But Korea has the level of talent that we are after, and it isn't overly inflated like working in Singapore. It also provides huge amounts of opportunity, but working or setting up in Korea does require a larger investment to kick off than it does in Singapore.
Okay, yeah, I understand that. Well, obviously, there must be some kind of a tipping point in terms of revenue where it makes sense that you have enough revenue here to actually offset the costs.
Yeah, so we're looking about 6 months worth of designated funding just for Korea. So Korea has been growing quite significantly for us, so we are keeping an eye on it. If we were to step in office, it'd probably be mid-2021.
Oh, nice. Okay.
So it's not super far away, but due to COVID, we only set up our Singapore office officially in January.
Oh, right. Okay, understand that.
So we relocated all our staff over, and now we've had to bring most of them back and stop hiring.
Right, sure.
So we're going to have to go back another 6 months of investment there before pursuing Korea after. But Korea, compared to different parts of Southeast Asia, Korea has actually flourished with remote working, which has actually been something which I probably wouldn't have expected it from my visit, but they actually have flourished. We've run about 5 or 6 events over the period of COVID, with high participation and attendance, which has been actually quite awesome.
Nice. And you compare that to other markets where it hasn't been quite as easy to get that level of engagement?
It's quite mixed. So Korea has great internet, which makes things a lot easier.
Yeah, right.
Which definitely allows for a lot more of a stable connection and more interactivity as we do go on the sessions versus Philippines, Thailand, Indonesia, where it can be quite sporadic. But the participation within the events, the hackathons, the Microsoft events that we've run have actually been very, very, they've paid off a lot for everyone.
Oh, okay, interesting. You commented earlier a little bit on the level of talent required that you see in Korea as opposed to perhaps other markets, and the cost of that talent, if you like. What kind of talent are you referring to? Are we talking more like programmers, kind of a very
everything from
scientific kind of guys?
The combination between robotic engineers and data science is quite it's a very, very good fit in Korea. The sense of manufacturing. Right. The balance of costs or hourly rate versus a salary between Korea, Singapore is definitely more favorable for us to invest in development resource within Korea itself. Right. Partnerships are fundamental and important, so it even supports the account management side. And there is definitely a lot easier recruitment from what we've found in Korea versus Singapore. Yeah, right. Okay. Yeah, that's interesting. I think from my own perspective, looking at the Korean market right now, there's also a lot of
breadth of availability, I would say. So it's not only the general market dynamics, but also the supply that's been coming online over the last few years. So that probably also helps in terms of access to those people.
Yeah, couldn't agree with you more on that one.
Yeah, nice. Okay, excellent. So if you were to give other Kiwi tech companies a pointer or some advice or some direction, what would you say? Why should they even consider the Korean market?
There is opportunity pretty much everywhere you go. So there are certain areas which we've noticed that Korea does excel in, but there are certain areas in which there is definitely opportunity to grow. So everything from education through to even emerging technology and adoption. The culture shift in actually taking on some of these more advanced or more non-conservative technologies, there is definitely a market there for that.
Right.
My biggest piece of advice is don't go there for just 4 or 5 days. Do go there for a few weeks. You will not get anything done properly over a few days.
Right.
It is a relationship building area, and somebody isn't going to be able to have dinner with you just because you're there for a week.
Yeah, right.
After your first meeting, you will go out for dinner, but it will be a week later or the week after. It's not going to be instantaneous, and it does take that sense of commitment into the market to actually move forward. So we have found that is probably the strongest in Korea versus other Southeast Asian nations.
Right. Oh, interesting. So the spontaneity of availability, etc., is not always as easily accessible, perhaps.
So we kind of relate the sociability side of doing business with Korea as similar to Japan. You do have those. You do go out for drinks. You do have dinner. You do actually have those proper conversations outside of work, which is fundamental. But if you're only there for 4 days, expecting someone to drop exactly what they're doing, is not very likely to succeed. So definitely allow more time than just a couple of days.
Okay, interesting. And do you think to some extent those things, I mean, it's always difficult for a Kiwi company to come out here for 3 weeks, for example, because of also other stuff that goes on in their life. So a lot of stuff, I mean, potentially tapping into what you were saying about the willingness to engage remotely, so through video calls or whatever, plus a physical visit can be a way to, have that engagement.
Kind of. It's this guy I actually feel quite strongly on this one, and that's, you shouldn't be prepared to at least start your business off unless you're willing to commit to those few weeks at the start.
Okay.
It is very, very around building those relationships. And you're not in the remote over video, you're only going to get so far. There is a human connection element, and in New Zealand, we are not traditionally known for technology. Especially in Korea, they don't consider New Zealand as, we have great wine, we have great other areas, but IT is something that's still emerging, and it will be a few more years before we're actually given that brand.
Okay, interesting. Yeah. Oh no, very good. Well, I think that's really valuable advice and interesting, obviously, for other companies as they consider engaging the Korean market. And hopefully also once the flights open up, we can get Koreans back up to New Zealand as well for a little bit of a look-see and meet and greet. Yeah,
that would be great. There's lots of things in New Zealand that are happening, and we can definitely work with other Korean businesses as well. We are becoming a lot more export through technology.
Okay. Yep. Perfect. No, that's awesome. Well, look, I really appreciate the reflection. Obviously, congratulations on the business that you've been able to pick up and develop here. That's exciting, and some fantastic brand names there that you mentioned. So all the best, obviously, to Aware Group in the Korean market. And as a Kiwi Chamber, we're here to help, and obviously look forward to seeing you again personally when you're back in town, and or any of your colleagues as well.
Awesome. Thank you for that.